Morning, Ms. Hollis, Sergeant Major, fellow classmates. My name is Master Sergeant Munoz, and I will be giving you an unclassified informational brief on Stand 5, which involves the actions that happen around the hospital. Now, the tactical importance of this area is as follows. You have the hospital right here, which is located right behind you. Then you have the barracks, which we just came from Stand number 4. Then we have the stables and the guard tent. The stables are right next to the barracks, and the guard tent was to your east. Now, the important part of this actions is when you look at the map, in the north towards the city of Columbus, the soldiers in green are the Villistas forces, which were already occupying the city. Now, in the area right here, the main actions that happened during that day is in the stables, the stable guards and the cooks were busy defending themselves. The main job that they have at that time was to stay alive. As you know, during that time, the stable guards and the cooks were not issued weapons. So they were finding whatever they could find to defend themselves. From there, we do north to the hospital, right behind you. It was a thick adobe hospital, and the hospital stewards, which are today's medics, were doing the same thing as the stable guards. They were barricading themselves. Main goal was to stay alive, same as the stable guards and the cooks. They had no weapons. At that time, they were not issued any weapons. From there, we moved to the officer of the day building, which is right behind you. Lieutenant Castleman was the officer of the day. When he heard the commotion, he left the headquarters building, heading towards the barracks. As soon as he left the headquarters, he encountered a Villista soldier. The Villista soldier shot at him point blank. However, he missed. So Lieutenant Castleman was able to pull his revolver and shoot him on the spot. From there, he continued down south towards the barracks. His main goal was to go to the barracks, gather some troops to mount the defense. But when he got there, he was relieved to find Sergeant Fody, who was already there, had already gathered 25 armed troops, and were waiting just to go out of the barracks and mount the defense. Now, Sergeant Fody remembers, and he quotes saying, "I remember when I had the troops ready, Lieutenant Castleman came running with a revolver in his hands into the barracks to collect the troops to take charge." So once Lieutenant Castleman and Sergeant Fody got together, they mounted the attack towards the north. And as you can see, they left the barracks towards the north. When they got to this area, which is right here in this corner, by the railroad tracks, they encountered enemy attack. Sergeant Fody remembers that the enemy was so close to them, firing so close that he felt the heat so close that it was burning his face. Remember, at that time it was still early in the morning, so it was very, very dark. When they encountered the attack, they immediately dropped to the ground and started shooting back. However, they were confused because they did not know if it was enemy fire or friendly fire that was coming towards them. But then Lieutenant Castleman heard a Mexican troop speaking Spanish, and that gave him the relief that he needed to give the order and push forward. So Lieutenant Castleman and Sergeant Fody and the troops were able to push the Villistas back towards the town. Now, at the same time this was happening, you heard before the stand number 3, that Lieutenant Lucas left his house, went to the barracks. The main goal was for him to collect his machine gunners. He collected 2 machine gunners and headed over towards the guard tent. When they got to the guard tent, they encountered Private Yarborough. Private Yarborough was there by himself. He was shot in his right arm. He was mortally wounded. The biggest thing that Private Yarborough did at that guard tent is that he was able to defend the guard tent, push the Villista forces back by himself, and he stayed there making sure that nobody took his machine gun and used it against his own troops. So overall, the actions that happened in this area, as you can see, was very confusing, happening so quick. So the tactical analysis for this is, what can a leader do when the enemy is already in your location? And I think the Army, the NCO Creed answered it better when it says, "I will exercise initiative by taking appropriate action in the absence of orders." Because every single one of them exercise initiative. And also when you look at the Army values, I want to concentrate on Private Yarborough. Talk about personal courage. You know, being there by himself, having all the Villistas coming towards him, and not willing to let the machine gun fall in their hands even after he was shot. So once all of this was said and done, they had to move up north. Now, this concludes the portion of my brief, pending your questions.
I have one question. What's your personal opinion of Lieutenant Castleman's actions?
The question is my personal opinion of Lieutenant Castleman's actions. I believe that Lieutenant Castleman did the right thing. At that time, he was expected to stay in his building as he was the officer of the day. But seeing that there was no other officers around, he took charge, left his office and went to the barracks to collect the troops. Later on, he was looked down because he left his post. But in my personal opinion, he did the right thing by collecting the troops and pushing the Villistas back. Are there any other questions? If there are no other questions, this concludes my brief. I will be followed by stand number 6.